Welcome everyone to one of the most exciting battles in round 3 tie breaks. We have the 14-year-old Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus and his opponent is the world-class GM Richard Rapport. Their two classical games ended in draws and now they are in tie breaks. The first game 15 plus 10 and Yaz is very good at speed chess, so it's not going to be easy for Richard, and this will be very much fun to watch. Game begins with pawn to e4 and Richard takes his time. It's 15 minutes plus 10 seconds increment here. And what's his move going to be? He plays pawn to c5, knight comes out to f3, knight to c6, and now bishop to b5. We have the Rosolimo. Pawn to e6. The e6 variation of the Rosolimo is played here, and white castles. Black plays knight to e7, just bolstering the knight on c6. Next move is a6, so that if you take, I can take back with my knight. He puts his rook on e1. h6 played here, and now pawn to c3, with the idea of breaking in the center with d4. a6 played and Yaz comes back to f1. While Richard is up to 16 minutes on the clock, Yaz has 13 minutes. So Richard clearly in his preparation. Pawn comes up to d4, knight back to f6. And now pawn takes pawn taken here. He takes the queen. Rook takes and now takes back the pawn. Bishop c5. Black's opening position looks completely fine. The only problem is with this bishop on c8, which is slightly passive, which black will try to solve with e5 in the coming moves. But Yaz stops it. He's like, you can't play e5, and Rapport is like, I will play it. And it works because of take, and bishop f2. If you take here, there's a check and you lose the rook. So knight to b3 is played, and now bishop to d6, defending the pawn on e5. The knight goes back to d2, bishop c7. White wants to put the knight on c4. He goes pawn g3. Nice move by Yagiz Kaan. He's putting the bishop on that long diagonal. a5 played here, with the idea of a4, a3. Bishop comes to g2. Very interesting queenless middle game here. Knight to c5 played. And there's pressure on the long diagonal here with the knight and the bishop. The bishop comes to b6, attacking the knight. Knight e4 played. It's time to chop off that knight. He takes with the knight. Can we play f5 here is the question. No, he first goes rook d8. And now bishop to e3, offering a trade of bishops. Rapport happily takes it. Rook takes e3. And now you want to enter in with rook d2, but the knight is controlling it. So f5, kicking the knight away. So big pressure here. Knight c5, only move e4, shutting down the bishop. I guess you must try and quickly open this up, but first fighting for the space with b3. He takes, knight takes b3, taken here. And now bishop e6. The knight is being attacked here because the rook would be hanging. So white brings the rook back to e1. Bishop b3. What a nice move by Rapport, improving the structure of white, but now just moving in, attacking the c3 pawn. It has to be defended, and he goes rook c1 passively. Knight jumps into e5. And now just time to bring the king in would be very, very powerful. 5 minutes 43 seconds for Erdogmus, 12 for Rapport. Rapport is very close to getting a winning position. Now bring your king in. He plays rook d2 with the idea of getting knight to d3, and g4 played, trying to break this structure, and Rapport goes g6. bolstering the structure. Takes, takes. Again, the pawn structure is very strong, and one of the very beautiful maneuvers is to bring the king up to f4. He plays rook a1, and knight d3 is a big error. You know, king f7. Here's a beautiful line that you could have activated your king, you know, this way, and then knight f3 takes, king f3, and the f2 pawn under pressure. But he goes knight to d3, which is a mistake. And now rook a5, attacking f5. Yaz is too good. He finds the defense. Rook takes f2, and now very important move, bishop f1. Finds it, bishop f1. Rook has to be played to f3, and now he takes the knight, and the position has been equalized. If you take with the rook, then f5 pawn is hanging, so he takes with the pawn. King g2, attacking the rook, and he goes d2, about to make a queen here. You have to go rook d5, rook takes pawn, and this position, in spite of the fact that black will be 2 pawns up after rook d3, white still is holding with rook d7. Yes, finds it. Rook d7 played, and somehow if you can win one of these pawns, it will be just a pawn down. b5, now just h4. But he goes wrong. He goes rook b7. This is not a good move. f4, and you start pushing your pawn is much better here. Richard Rapport has around 15 seconds to figure out what to do. He goes h5, and white is back in the game once again. Can Yagiz Kaan hold this? h4 should be played here, and then eventually you just wait. You let him push the pawn and then bring your rook and try to attack this pawn and win one of the 2 pawns. If he goes king f8, go rook h7 and chop this off. h4 played, good move. And now Richie goes f4. King comes to f2, and this turns out to be a crucial error, because now b4, but what could be more natural than bringing your king in? b4 is coming in now, and will Rapport find this move? Because king f8 is met with rook h7. Yes, b4, good move. And the question is, what should white do next? Rook b1 played. Can we snatch the pawn on h5? He gives a check. King at 7, not going on the f file, so that he gives a check and picks this up. He's okay to give up the h pawn. King g6, check. And king to f6. He goes up, pawn to b3, rook comes to g2, trying to defend against b2. He brings his king up, and truly this position is big trouble time for white. King f5 played, and Yaz is now totally lost, cannot win this pawn. He's threatening b2, check, and making a queen. Rook d2 played, rook f1 check, king g2, and rook c1, threatening rook c2. Very nice move. He goes rook d5 check, trying to put the rook behind the passer. King g4, rook check, king takes pawn, rook comes back, and rook c3, and Yaz resigns. Richard Rapport scores the first win, and a very important one at that. Yagiz Kaan was a bit upset there. He didn't sign the score sheet, it seems. He just left. He needs to win to make a comeback.